away.
Yeah, I really like the Ezreal takeaway as we see the Jhin potentially coming in. Yep, it will be locked in for Ruler. And there is some setup for Jhin on this, especially with the Jhin Alistar combo, something that we've seen be really, really successful. And we'll see what AL want to lock in on their side.
And one of the problems for AL is they now can't pick those safe AD carries either. So if the Alistar is going onto your AD carry, you don't have the Arcane Shift to get away. You don't have the dash from the Lucian to get away. They're saving AD carry pick for the moment. Looks like they are going to go for the Annie in the mid lane. Huge burst CC. And once again, it comes back to this. This is a very strong burst teamfight comp from AL.
Yep.
Kai'Sa would, yeah.
Kai'Sa would fit in well
Absolutely.
with that.
Would really slot in when it comes to the aggression, when it comes to the ability of Pantheon to very quickly get to a backline, and it gives you even more potential to play towards those side lanes, right? Particularly once you get level 2 on the ultimate, there is so much possibility to make these big plays around the map as it is going to be the Ornn. We talked about it early on. All reliable here for Keen, just going to play for the rest of his team. Not going to be the most fun matchup, but once you get Koenig, you can kind of just absorb those punches from the Rumble.
Isn't it a little against GENG and Chovy, the reigning MSI champs, the #1 team on the global power rankings as well. It is a monumental task for AL, but I'm sure they're up to the challenge.
And this is the matchup I really want to see, right? Because a lot of people have really been doubting AL. Again, for them, I really think it comes down to how well can Shanks contain Chovy. And then additionally, in coming here, I do want to give yet another shout out to their coach, Tabe, who has this track record of really transforming LPL teams and being able to bring them to international competitions with a lot of success. I think that's really where a lot of the support jungle focus comes from as well, as we're going to run through some of his prior teams. But yeah, that is such a huge strength, is the compositions he's able to draft for this team, making sure that they're super comfortable in playing them, and then also using the flexibility of both Tarzan and Kyle in a lot of these drafts.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that only a couple of years ago, AL were an 11th to 15th place team in the LPL, right? Then rose up to 6th last year, and then this year, both finals now making it to MSI after winning those LPL playoffs.
I mean, even that BLG team, right? They had such a breakout performance in 2023 MSI. The expectations were very low, and they ended up being one of the big stories from that year. Tabe and his team dispatching of GENG not just once, but twice in high-stakes series, as we say. They're the reason why you pick the Alistar into the rel. Have the ability to cancel that crash down, not allow that engage to just come through without the possibility for a counter trade.
Both the junglers starting on the top side of the map. Tarzan on this Pantheon, 10-2 across his career, 80% win rate. Has had an absolute ball of a time on it this year. Level 2 hit for Kyle and Hope. Kyle is going to go in. Juro ignited there, down to 200 HP. Hope looking for a little bit more. Could flash forward. The pulverize comes out, but Hope decides against going any deeper. Flash save for Juro, did have to use the heal.
And this is something we saw for GENG domestically as well. Sometimes a little bit too over-eager in the 2v2. Juro goes in, doesn't hit the initial skills, and then the follow-up. Very nicely done there by Kyle and Hope to push the advantage, but it is just a summoner trade as Ruler. The cancel.
Yeah, well played by Juro there to get the pulverize down, making sure that Kyle couldn't find his engage. Shanks and Chovy trading in the mid lane, but Chovy, okay, can just pop that pot.
Electric matchup there with both of them just continuously looking for these short trades.
Yeah, and I am curious to see if either jungler will kind of take a look at this bot lane with a few sums down. Potentially, I'm always looking for some early jungle action as we see them kind of finishing up both of their clears on this bot side.
Juro hits the pulverize, gets the headbutt back as well. Hope flashes forward, but Ruler blocks the Prey Seeker, the Void Seeker there from Hope. Canyon is looking down here.
He's here.
Oh, wind becomes lightning dodged, as is the deadly flourish by Kyle. Then comes in with the Shadowing Strike to force Ruler away.
Double sidestep there, and Hope giving up his flash, that is a big deal. But with the health trade going the way of AL, I don't think that Canyon can actually look to contest the scuttle here.
Yeah, no, I think he's just going to look to cross in mid and then get that topside scuttle crab, which will draw the junglers. Again, even clears here.
Should be fine. In the top lane, meanwhile, Flandre just pushing Keen in whenever he can, kind of expected in the early matchup. Well, Keen has gone for that no magic mantle for a bit of magic resist on the Ornn to help him out in the lane.
Main advantage here for AL is a tempo lead on jungle, because Tarzan has already backed. Canyon has not been able to do so because he was towards the bot side, had to cross over to top side scuttle.
And we see AL going for that swap, right? Both teams will be swapping their bot lanes top, potentially for a little bit more grub advantage, as we see the top laners going on the bot side. I feel like AL in LPL specifically, they have had kind of the best macro sense, which they did improve on from Split 1, right? Where they kind of got run over by TES, and then TES did not perform at first stand. But that's another thing that I think they've improved on quite a bit, is with some of these early lane assignments.
For Gen G, they've often been extremely tenacious in sticking in games, even absorbing some early laning disadvantages. And don't get me wrong, if they do get early laning leads, you actually don't get to play the game. But it's not something that they always rely on, with exception of Chovy. We see Keen very happy to just take matchups like this, where he's happy to absorb the blow. And then it comes down to the team fighting, and I think Gen G, out of any LCK team, has the best sense of what do we go for, how can we cross-map, can we contest an objective or not, kind of to the contrast of the absolute chaos that is T1. Not unlike the relation between AL and BLG
and
in that
BLG,
sense.
Right? Yeah, I mean, AL still are, as we see, Shanks kind of going on for some damage onto Chovy. It is comparable. I do still think that AL can be hyper-aggressive, again, especially with this support jungle duo when they're able to on the map, especially with early skirmishes. And if...
Oh, good knockback by Juro.
Nice
Stops the
from Juro.
flash shadowing strike from connecting onto Ruler. Uses the heal in the end. It's a summon a spell exchange on that top side.
Big deal there, not having to use the cleanse for Ruler. Especially when playing into any and into a Pantheon, keeping hold of that summoner is a really big deal. Grubs are going to be coming up in about a minute and a half. We do see some pings, but neither team really incentivized to go for the dragon right now, as Duro takes a bit of a beating, but had aftershock, so not going to be too bothered.
As well, to make sure that Kyle couldn't get the second knock-up on him. Matchup I do want to focus on is that mid-lane matchup, though. Shanks coming into his first international tournament against Chovy, who obviously has been to a slew of them over the years. Importantly, though, Shanks had such a good start to this MSI. Chovy obviously continues to play well, as Kyle actually going in here onto Juro. Juro down to 100 HP, the Ignite ticking, but it won't be enough to kill him off. And in the end, again, it's just summoners exchanged.
Yep. We see the AL bot lane. I was wondering if Tarzan was going to do something up there as well, as we see him kind of pinging onto their side of the map, but still kind of quiet, no objectives taken from either side.
Was probably considering looking for something, but his entire topside jungle is up. I imagine his bot side camps are also on the respawn, so if Canyon is in the area, who I don't think was spotted, he was at that point backing in bot side river, but if Canyon is there and you try and go for a big play onto the Alistar, can backfire quickly, and I don't think either team really feels a necessity to make too much happen. Obviously for Gen G, you look at that Ornn, the value that he's going to provide and the team fighting power that the team has. They're not going to feel necessarily pressured, but even for AL, with how much skirmishing power you have, I think you can afford to take it slowly up until the point where you have to start contesting these objectives.
We do have one of those objectives coming up in 10 seconds time. It's the Grubs. Kyle not yet level 6. Juro's only just ticked over to 5. See Kyle trying to soak some of the XP in mid to get towards that 6. Both the junglers hit that mark and have their ultimates available, but currently no real vision set up for either team up towards that topside river, so we have to see a little bit of a push from either of them into the enemy jungle to get a bit of vision down. Chovy, though, goes in with the weirding. Shanks using Tibbers to force him back, and now that might be the bell rung on AL going for Grubs.
Small advantage here when it comes to the health bar. Shanks won't have his ultimate, but does Chovy having his ultimate matter if he doesn't have the health to walk over? We see Gen G still looking for a contest. I think wanna desperately try and get at least a grub.
They've done a good job of keeping Hope gated from coming in through that top side of the river. Chovy being forced away again in that mid lane. GenG are the first on the grubs, but AL have secured one. TP coming in. Tarzan looking for this. Can't land as Canyon gets a smite. TP from Kin. Call it the forward. Duro with a double knock-up. And onto the back line. Kyle is already knocked up and taken out. First blood to GenG. The dive in from Tarzan, but now he's in the middle of the enemy team. Tarzan falls second. Chovy goes between worlds. And AL is sent to the afterlife. Hope able to kill Canyon off, but Hope should go down. With a flame spitter. Will be able to get one of his own. Keen can't get in range and doesn't have the mana to kill off Hope or Shanks. Ruler's going to be able to walk away. Keen comes in. The curtain's open, but Shanks is just outside the window, unable to be connected there. Flandre takes the fine couple of shots. Kale coming across as well. Shanks has enough mana for another disintegrate. The electrocute procs, and Keen will fall in the end. A 3-for-3 exchange.
When all is said and done, it's a relatively even trade. Even the grubs are 1-1.
Yeah, I was gonna say no one actually has cleared out that final grub. But that was a really, really messy fight, and Tarzan might be in trouble.
He's going to try and walk away from this one. Canyon comes in with the wind becomes lightning, but doesn't follow it up with an audacious charge, and now they turn it back onto Duro because Hope is here, and he rings eternal. Tarzan heals up through the triumph, and Canyon's down as well. AL will get the cherry on top of this cake with a grub to boot.
Yeah, I was going to say, meanwhile, Flandre is just cleaning up that last grub for AL. These are the combinations I love seeing out of this team, right? Tarzan really, really playing around his limits, knowing who is behind him to end up following up for that kill in the mid lane, while Flandre is just like, okay, well, I'll take the last grub for you guys.
Big overstep there from Duro. If he has the ultimate available, can just ult and walk it off. But I think not quite ready for the amount of heat that AL was ready to bring. GenG finding themselves at an early deficit as the continued fighting from AL. And look at the gold as well. The fact that Hope was able to pick up those kills and that damage of Flandre, man, he really salvaged that fight because the first couple of seconds looked like GenG kind of knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
even that first grub fight, right? Like that was all rumble damage kind of on the back half of it once Flandre was able to get in. Again, this is not only a champ that he's just looked really, really good on this split, but also something he's been playing since he came into the LPL, and it was one of his prio picks even back in the early Snake days.
Yeah, we try not to remember the early Snake days.
Look, Flandre was great during that time.
He was really good.
This is the moment to bring up Afrika for Keen. Can we? Can
Actually,
we can
can go down memory lane for both top laners. Snake actually did finish second in that split.
Yeah.
No one banned Beast and Baka as champions, so it's fine. I'm not quite over that, maybe.
I don't want to talk about Keen's finishes unless it's recently.
He's had every possible finish.
He has, yeah. I remember that graphic. Can't believe that he was able to pull it off. For GenG, this deficit obviously not going to be the end of the world. Item breakpoints that they're looking to get is Sundered Sky on Canyon. As I finish my sentence, he does have it. Koenig working for Keen, as well as Chovy obviously wants to get to that first item. I'm also going to be looking at Keen. One of the big things with the Ornn for me is to be careful not to overgroup and hit your experience breakpoints. Many other champions kind of bound by stacks. In Ornn's case, getting to level 13, 14 as soon as possible is such a big deal because so much of the champion's power budget is tied up in being able to give out those item empowerments.
Yeah, and as we see both teams kind of
Ooh, another fight.
sussing out this Drake.
Yeah, some posturing going on right now, but neither team really committing to it. Canyon did leash the dragon, at least, but
I got overexcited.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
It's okay.
It's all right. I mean, 8 kills in 12 minutes. This is triple a usual LCK game, no?
Yeah, that's true. How you doing?
Hey, come on now, guys. That's outdated narrative. Sometimes still happens, but more often than not, there is a lot of stuff happening, okay?
I was going to say GenG, though?
Yeah!
Yeah.
And not necessarily when it comes to kills. I mean, I was about to say, why are you setting me up like that, Emily?
No, I love GenG. I love both of these teams. It's such an exciting matchup for me.
Ooh.
Just number one versus number one, as we see AL are going to end up getting the first rotation on this Drake thanks to being able to push in that mid wave.
Yeah, not going to be any contest from GenG. They'll be able to get a plate for their troubles. Canyon on the opposite end of the map, not feeling really any necessity to go for any place.
I will say though, over the last sequence of fights, Canyon has hit 1,000 international assists, which is incredibly impressive.
Awesome.
7th player to reach that milestone, so good job Canyon overall. I'm sure he would have been more happy to pick up a couple of the kills in the fight, but 0-2-3 right now on this Shenshao does have that Sundered Sky complete. AL having a little bit of the run of the map, took those early grubs, then got the Drake. And obviously the first 3 kills was hit by GENG.
Chovy finishing his second mask. Obviously to make sure he doesn't, you know, confuse that with the mask 2, which you should stay very far away from. I've seen this build a lot. The extra amplification, particularly on a champion that is very burst reliant, like the Aurora. Need to be careful not to walk in any distract. But thus far we have seen Shanks, I think, make good use of this counter pick with the Annie, keeping Chovy on the back foot, which has meant that he hasn't really been able to have any impact in the sides. And I want to say skirmishes, but really it was just skirmish and a little bit of runoff.
It is interesting how much symmetry there is between these two teams. You know, Chovy and Tarzan playing together on Griffin, obviously in the good old days. Flandre and Keen, 2 stalwart top laners of their regions who went through some hard times before hitting the limelight. Really? Kael and Duro even actually just mirroring the teams that they played on. With Kael being on GENG, then Live Sandbox, then AL.
And Kyle actually had a really big breakout year, was only a single game away of making it to Worlds in 2022. Did, you know, make way for the best Cinderella run of all time.
I really thought that team was going to make it.
Yeah. Instead, obviously, got bested by DRX in Game 5, and
the rest is history.
The rest is history. Duro, the opposite, really had a stellar performance in summer of last year when he came in and really helped back then Live Sandbox with, or BNK4X rather, with a lot of their issues. Turned them into a pretty decent middle of the pack team. And GENG also has a habit, right? He did this with Delight as well, as Chovy might be in some trouble here.
Yeah, Shanks 1 stack away from having that stun back up. Tarzan's looking for him. Chovy stays around, doesn't finish the recall. Can use the weirding to get out of vision for a second. Jumps forward between worlds as well. With the TP coming in, AL might call off the dive, but they decide against it. Chovy able to get out there. And now Keen's on the chase. Tarzan has to flash and should be able to escape.
Yeah, nice response. Pulling the TP from Keen, able to get Tarzan's flash out of there.
Fighting!
Knockback. Unbreakable Will so powerful at this moment of the game. The Equalizer not really going to hit onto too much. TP coming in from Chovy as well as Canyon is trading with Flandre. The curtain's open and Hope goes in with a killer instinct. Ruler flashes away, but now Keen's here to save his AD carry. He can't do that! Kael up towards the top side with the Grand Side 4 coming in. He's going to fall first. Flandre getting chased down by Canyon as well, but he'll get the kill with a Flame Splitter. Now Tarzan's on the face of Chovy and will continue to chase him down. Duro burnt to a crisp. It's well done states for AL as they win out the fight.
It's mayhem on the Rift and AL come out on top.
Yeah, I think with these types of fights, this is where AL thrive, right? Especially in that particular fight. Again, we're looking at the rumble from Flandre and Tarzan's team fight targeting, as well as Hope just kind of going really, really deep in the back line, chasing after Ruler.
Because the moment I saw that Jin setup, I thought that GENG actually had the angle, right? Because the initial burst comes down, Tarzan taken out, or Kael rather, taken out of the fight immediately. The Equalizer doesn't really hit the mark, and Chovy shows up. But look at that, immediately forced to cancel. Hope follows up as well, ensures that Ruler doesn't get to join the fight, and then the timely arrival of Tarzan. That TP, they didn't even need, right? Duro can't do anything as Chovy gets taken down by his old teammate.
A bloody affair so far.
That's me.
Yep. 14 kills in 17 minutes. We saw the Rift Herald picked up by AL as well, so those feat of strength is going to come down all to who takes the first tower. Duro currently shadowing Chovy, trying to get him in a good position in this lane, but Chovy hasn't really been able to Chovy much in this game so far. Shanks is going to overall, obviously, you know, he's farming well and his gold's even in that lane, but we haven't seen the Chovy pop-off that we often do.
And again, I think the big story for AL right now is, again, this rumble pick for Flandre. He's had so much presence in these team fights. As Duro's gonna get onto Kael a little bit.
Shiba's gonna come down as well. Maybe just harass them so they can't go for this full tower dive. AL don't have any defenders.
And that does allow, again, Flandre to get some key one-on-one time with this top lane tier 1 turret, which he will take down for Anyone's Legend, and additionally, they're dropping this Herald in mid, so they're gonna polish up that mid tier 1 as well. Really nice map play from AL in response to this Drake taken.
They're still going.
And they're looking for the tier 2 as well, with the TP coming in from Flandre. Maybe they thought they could fight the Drake, thinking GenG were a little bit slower on that neutral objective than they were. AL will get the feat of strength, though.
Not so sure about the teleport, but everything else really nicely done there. GenG, I think correctly, make the record. We need an early dragon. We have a lot of breakpoints if we can get later to the game that if we hit them, we still are extremely strong in the 5v5. Think of an Infinity Edge for Ruler. Think of a the fact when Keen is going to start giving out the ornaments. But the price is so heavy, is Tarzan.
They were going in, Killer Instinct from Hope, and now the tides turn in this battle. Canyon with the Crescent Guard will tank up a lot of that damage and is able to walk out his cow.
And Canyon keeps looking for these opportunities together with Duro, but a lot of these skirmishes, they're not really hitting the mark.
And again, this is going to give Shanks time on this bot tier 1. He should be able to take this down as long as he can thin out the wave enough, and there we go. So some really nice map pressure coming out of AL. This composition is kind of designed for it, right? They really want to get ahead, especially before those Ornn items coming in, before Chovy, who again has been farming well in this matchup, despite Shanks kind of keeping him pushed on the opposite side of the map, because this Aurora will still be able to do so much damage in fights.
Ruler now, RFC done. He really had to show a big in the previous series for GenG on that Jhin in his team fighting. A lot of power, but we also know, as any GenG fan can tell you, sometimes a little bit too far forward on the waves. This time, doesn't look like anyone on AL is ready, and Arakan starting to become a consideration now. And AL, if they can deny vision, even with how good the engage from GenG is, so much burst is available, and I think Keen hasn't quite reached the point yet where he can just shrug off a full-blown engage from AL.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see these LPL versus LCK stats, kind of got to bring it up anytime, especially two top teams from the region are facing each other. Again, a reminder. I know everyone was super hype about about G2 FlyQuest. This was my matchup because it is #1 seed from LPL versus #1 seed of LCK. These teams are so much fun. We see the best of 5 series score at 17 and 20, and then the all-time game score at 104 to 136.
And now GenG looking to set up around Arakan. We do have Shanks still pushing inside. Obviously, he has the TP available. We'll see if AL is going to fall from the bait. GenG, I think, looking for the 5v5.
Yeah, Duro going in, TP coming out immediately from AL as they want to try and trade it back. Hope the first target here. The knockup coming out from Keen as well, but the equalize now to the backline, and they haven't killed off Hope or Shanks. Keen forced down to about 2/3 HP as Hope dives forward, and Keen will die first. AL once again turn around the fight.
The ult!
And Starfall immediate stun onto Chovy, who jumps backwards between worlds. Kai out going in with the Magnet Storm, surviving for oh so long. The chase continues as Hope has found a perfect flank onto Ruler. Ruler down, Duro to follow. Chovy flashes to safety, but the rest of GenG do not have that luxury. Canyon has to dash away to the minion wave, and AL will turn their eyes to Atakan.
Hope getting revenge on one of the 80 carries he was replaced by, right? I want to talk about Hope for a little bit as we see Anyone's Legend on this Otacon, because it's not that he's been bad, right? It's that his teams have always been like, okay, but we found someone better in Viper. We found someone better in Ruler. And here, he's absolutely willing to just dive the backline. It becomes crucial in this team fight.
And here it feels like GenG definitely wanting to scrap, but the follow-up damage just isn't there. Ruler is immediately blown up by that combination of Shanks and Tarzan. Basically doesn't get to join the fight, and Chovy wasn't actually there. Keen pulling that trigger when one of your biggest damage dealers is not available, particularly when you're playing a free carry composition, the tank not included, can't quite do that, and it was GenG that started off this whole sequence, but they punched above their weight in this fight.
And I think in that team fight as well, you see how well Tarzan and Kyle set up for the carries in these fights. In addition to, I mean, Tarzan's just a carry on his own at this point on the Pantheon, but you kind of saw their setup there. As long as AL have one dive buddy to go with another, they play so well around these kind of pick compositions.
And now, GenG in defensive mode. This is something where obviously, if you've watched this team even a little bit, they often are able to hunker down and find some great re-engages, but it's the fact that the 5v5s thus far haven't looked that clean that worries me somewhat. Flandre does have the TP available. GENG, they're down about 4.5k gold. The 2-item spikes have been hit, but AL ready to contest this.
Flandre on his way has the equalizer, also has the Seekers if he wants to get a little bit aggressive. Keen on that front line. Tarzan jumping onto Ruler. There's the equalizer follow-up. Juro with a good knock-up, but Hope cannot be stifled. Ruler down. Between worlds goes Chovy, but they just don't have the damage. Canyon's on top of Hope, but he supercharges his way to safety. And Chovy once again is running for the hills. AL wipe away GENG.
They take down GENG. They get the Drake.
Keen gets out as well.
Hope is absolutely stellar in these fights. They're going to be able to clean up Chovy on the backside of this.
So Keen barely gets out. Chovy uses his TP, still doesn't make it. And GENG, you got to question that decision. They're so far down and they're still very happy to commit to this 5v5. And even though a nice interrupt of the Tarzan means that Ruler doesn't get blown up immediately, once Hope shows up, he's still cooked. Chovy doesn't have the items. And without that Jhin damage, you can see the health bars on AL, they're a little low, but no one is actually in danger of dying.
Yeah, and again, I'm just so happy that you all get to see this Anyone's Legend on the international stage as we see this cancel coming out, stopping Chovy from backing, and then he is also dead on the backside of this fight. Because this team, again, I think people didn't necessarily know what to expect from Anyone's Legend coming here. Top Esports did have better macro in the LPL finals in Split 1, I promise. However, AL really raised through the upper bracket and qualified, and I think with the international performance that Top Esports had at first stand, people were like, well, how good are Anyone's Legend anyway? They are an incredible team, guys, and they're so fun to watch. This is a perfect composition for them, and you really see how willing they are to follow up as soon as one of them goes in.
And I generally trust GENG blindly when it comes to specifically how they pick fights and what they do when they're behind in the game, but in this game, I'm not seeing it so far. We're going to have to see some absolutely immaculate team fighting from them, but it's not like even taking into account some of the scaling right now. Ruler also sitting on an upgraded Ghostblade is in their favor because the damage from AL never really is going to fall off. The lack of frontline maybe becomes a problem down the line, but right now they're down. 7.5k gold and Tarzan is looking.
Equalizer coming out. Tarzan looking for the flank onto Ruler. Kai out there for the follow-up. The Magnus Storm comes out. They just have so many tools in their toolbox. AL can miss everything and still kill off GENG. Chovy and Canyon trying to get back to the safety of their base, but Tarzan's having none of it. He'll pull Chovy back. The chase continues. The spear is ulting into the base. Kai dashing forward as well as AL have used Tibbers to tank up that mid lane inhibitor tower, and Chovy falls where he should be safe. AL now on the inhibitors.
GENG have not been able to protect Ruler in these fights, especially against this composition. Once it got rolling, all eyes are on Ruler. One member of AL is diving, and he is out.
This is domination. It's a shellacking. GENG 20 series undefeated, and AL come out in game 1 and have shown them what they're about. GENG can't defend, and the LPL shines strong. 1-0 in this best of 5.